Hi everyone, my name is Jamie Delane Watson. Thank you so much for watching today. Today I thought I'd take a few moments to share with you a bit about my photography story and how I started my business at the age of 16 to where I am now, 25 years old, and the 8.5 years that I've been a photographer. So let's start from the very beginning. Growing up, we all have these different ideas of what we want to be when we grow up, what we want to become. For me, I always wanted to be a teacher. The majority of my elementary and middle school life, I secretly think that's because that's the main profession you see every day when you go to school, teachers. I'm like, oh great, I'll be one of those. Sounds good. It's what I knew. And then I got to high school and I thought, I am not teaching high school kids. No, I'm not being a teacher. Then I started to have a real interest in business. Both my parents have been involved in business their whole life. My mom running her own businesses and my dad at an executive level at various companies. And so I've always loved the business world. I'm like, oh, I want to be like my dad. I want to be a high-powered executive in a corner office, and that's what I want. So I was on that train for a while, and then I took a graphic design course, and I really fell in love with that in grade 9. I'm like, oh, I love using, I was going to say using my hands, not using my hands, but using my hands on the computer to create things, and I really love that. And all the way through my life, I've also had a love of the English language and writing, and so I thought maybe I'll be a writer, maybe I'll write fiction or nonfiction, or so I had all these different ideas floating around. But ultimately, I guess it was the graphic design, writing, telling stories side of things that drew me to photography. And so I didn't take any photography classes in high school, but what happened is my dad had purchased a digital SLR camera. Now these are really commonplace, but back in 2006 when he bought one, they were just coming out, believe it or not, and it was kind of on the transition from film to digital, and more digital cameras were getting in consumers' hands. So he bought, oh man, I think it was one of the first Canon Rebel models, and he bought this camera and he had it at home with a few lenses, and he just loves technology, and so he lets us use it. And we used to travel a lot as a family, so on one of our trips he brought this camera along. And I thought, I'd like to see how this works. And so I just started taking tons of photos. We took a East Coast road trip from Boston up to Montreal, to the Maritime Provinces, Prince Edward Island, all these beautiful places. And I just snapped so many photos. So when we got home, I loved looking through the photos, printing the photos. I remember bringing them to school. And of course I had used some basic Microsoft photo editing software to bump the saturation up by 50 points. It was pretty bad. Printed them out and passed them around, and I just loved it. And very quickly I realized there's a lot more to learn about photography than just putting it on the automatic setting. So I devoured the manual cover to cover, and I started to read about how to do manual exposure and what ISO meant, and f-stops and apertures, those are the same things by the way, and shutter speed and all of those little details. And so I just began this discovery of reading as much as I could about photography at every turn. And so through Googling photographers and wedding photographers, because I was a 16-year-old girl, I liked weddings. I love looking at wedding photos. I came across this whole community of wedding photographers that were doing this for a living. This was their full-time job. And so this forum that I came across, it doesn't exist anymore. I feel like the world of Facebook has kind of replaced most forums, but there was this awesome community of people sharing everything they knew about running the business side of photography. And so my eyes were just opened up to it, wow, you could really create a business doing this. I'm totally in. And so I was in grade 11 at the time, and I spent hours reading this forum. I would absolutely skip school and skip classes. My mom knew. She's the one who picked me up. So if a teacher's watching this, it's not my fault. We lied. Said I was sick a lot, and I wasn't. I was at home reading. And so I just started to enjoy that part of building a business so much, just researching, and I felt like it was a better use of my time than being in class. And so I have my parents to thank for that for sure, and supporting me in that. So by the age of 16, I started a photography website. I just purchased a really cheap template, and I put up some photos. Now how I got these photos was I realized, okay, I want to make a full-time living, hopefully taking photos of people. And so I knew we were involved in a church at the time, as we still are now, and there was lots of young families around. And so some of these young families that I knew, I asked, could I take photos of your kids for free? I just want to use those images on my Facebook page and on my website. And these moms were like, sure, come on over. So I started to do a lot of like baby and young family photography, and I put those up on my website. So literally probably had just 30 images on my website, and I decided to put up some pricing, even though I had never charged for photography before. And then I got an email from a family about a month after I put my website up live, and they said, we'd like to book you for family portraits. And they paid the rates I put up there, like a couple $100 or whatever it was. It's like, wow, look at this, I'm really doing it. And so shortly after that, actually through the photography forum, by networking with wedding photographers on there, I expressed a desire to start doing weddings, but I didn't know how. I wanted to assist at one, and a photographer contacted me and said, you're welcome to second shoot 2 weddings with me. It was on one weekend, back-to-back weddings. You're welcome to assist me and take your own photos, and whatever photos you capture, you can use on your website if you like. Perfect. This is my opportunity. So in August of 2007, so I had just turned 17, I assisted her at 2 weddings, and I was able to capture images that I loved, and just kind of like second angles. You can't always get the best photos second shooting, but the experience was so worth it, of course. And I put those images up on my website. So now I not only had the family portrait section, I also had a wedding section. So that was in August 2007 that I shot those wedding photos. By December of the same year, I got an email from a bride. She said, I came across your wedding website, or photography website. I'm sure she came across it probably through portraits that I had put on Facebook and my blog and website and all of that. She said, we would love to have you shoot our wedding if you're available. And so I sent her back an email. I was so excited and nervous, and basically was like, I would love to shoot your wedding. Like, I responded with tons of enthusiasm because that's how I felt. And I said, I've never shot a wedding by myself though, but I have second shot a couple, and I'm fully confident that I can deliver images that you will love. And I offered her just a really low rate. It was probably, I think, $1,000 back then, just because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have experience. I just had a lot of energy and passion. So they booked their wedding for the following May, so 5 months later. And in those 5 months, I actually managed to book a couple more weddings online, just through people hearing about me and the marketing I did on Facebook and my blog. So that first year in business, I shot 11 weddings, which is awesome. I graduated high school in June of 2008. And then I'd already shot a couple weddings while I was in high school in May and June. And then that summer, I had a full summer of weddings. And then I've been doing photography full-time ever since. I did 15 weddings the next year. And then since my 3rd year, I've always had over 20 weddings. A couple years, I had 30 weddings. So it's been very full-time, and I feel really fortunate to do this. So that's my story about how I got started in photography. A few questions I receive a lot from beginner photographers is, how do I find clients and how do I get started? And there really is no magic answer. I think it's just a lot of hard work, and of course it's a lot of doing small little things right consistently. So having a blog that's set up beautifully, it looks nice, it's easy to navigate, you're providing great content for future clients and showing off your work well. You're really active on Facebook and social media, and really showing off what makes your personality and your brand different, and defining your ideal client and marketing to that bride and to that groom. So that's how I've had success over the last 8 years. I'm in the middle, well, while we're filming this, I'm in the middle of my 8th wedding season. Probably by the time you see it, we'll just be completing my 8th wedding season. And I feel really fortunate to do what I love, and it's something that's constantly evolving. I love different things about being a wedding photographer every year, and this career really just kind of fell into my lap. Not saying that I didn't work really hard for it, but the time in between I want to be a professional photographer and becoming a professional photographer was probably a year. I wasn't interested in photography growing up. It's just a love that developed really quickly for me. So I hope you enjoyed hearing my story. If you did, I'd love if you'd comment below and let me know that you listened, and share a little bit of your story with me too. If you want to follow me on social media, you can find me at Jamie Delane at most social media platforms. And as always, I'd love if you tune into my blog at jamiedelanblog.com and subscribe as well. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have an awesome day.